All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into the absolute chaos that's shaking the world of artificial intelligence. You see, this isn't just about code, it's a full-blown war. A war for talent, a war for ideas, and really, a war for what our future economy is even going to look like.
And I'm not kidding when I say war. We're talking about a multi-front conflict with tech titans acting like generals. I mean, the opening shots have absolutely been fired. We're seeing billion-dollar talent raids, public accusations of outrageous lies. Some serious bridges are being set on fire in Silicon Valley. It's getting personal, fast.
All right, so let's start with the first and maybe the most dramatic battleground of them all, the war for talent. I mean, this is a fight for the actual brains, the people building our future.
So how do you start a war like this? Well, you start with cash. A lot of cash. We're talking about reports of Mark Zuckerberg himself getting on the phone, personally calling top AI researchers at his rivals' companies, and dangling million-dollar signing bonuses to get them to jump ship to Meta. That's not just a job offer, that's a life-changing amount of money.
And look, this isn't just a few random offers here and there. No, this is a massive, systematic offense. To give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, Meta is pouring tens of billions into this. And as part of that push, they've apparently reached out to over 100. That's 100 key employees at OpenAI. They're trying to poach the absolute best minds in the game.
And the financial stakes? They just keep going up and up. It's not just about poaching new talent anymore. It's about holding on to the leaders you already have. Just look at Tesla. The board just approved a compensation package for Elon Musk worth tens of billions of dollars. And you know how they justified it? They literally called it an ever-intensifying talent war. They're putting their money where their mouth is to keep their general on the field.
So this really boils down to two completely different ways of fighting this war. On one side, you have the mission pitch. This is from guys like Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei. He's basically saying, come work with us because you believe in what we're doing and our principles. Then on the other side, you've got the money pitch. That's meta strategy, right? They're betting that huge, unprecedented financial packages are what will ultimately win the top talent. So, mission or money? Okay, but this whole conflict, it goes way deeper than just paychecks and poaching. Let's move to the next front, which is really a battle for the soul of AI itself. This is about what we're even building and why.
So, is it just about money? Well, if you ask Anthropic's CEO, the answer is a hard no. In an internal memo, he didn't just call it competition. He called it an ideological war. He literally accused Meta of trying to destroy the entire culture of startups that are built on a shared mission.
And believe me, this battle is getting intensely personal. You've got CEOs publicly clashing. When NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang basically accused Amodei of trying to control the entire industry, Amodei's response was swift, public, and just 5 words long. That is an outrageous lie. I mean, the gloves are completely off.
So what's at the heart of Amodei's side of this fight? It's this idea he's championing called responsible scaling policies. You know, a bit of a mouthful. But the idea is simple. He thinks the big race shouldn't just be about who can build the most powerful AI. It should be a race to the top on who can build the safest AI. He's pushing for companies to be public about their safety checks, to make it a public good, not some secret sauce they keep to themselves.
And you really have to understand, for Amodei, this isn't some abstract philosophical debate. It is deeply, deeply personal. When people call him a doomer for talking about AI risks, he pushes back hard. He shared that his own father passed away from a disease where, faster medical research, faster technology could have made all the difference. So for him, balancing the need to go fast with the need to be safe, it's not a business strategy. It's everything.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is a dramatic fight between a bunch of tech billionaires. Why should I care? Well, because this war isn't staying in Silicon Valley. Its shockwaves are already starting to reshape the entire global economy. And it's going to change the way every single one of us works. And if you want to get a sense of just how big this is, listen to this from Demis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind. He says the AI revolution will be, and I quote, 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution and maybe 10 times faster. Just let that sink in. Think about everything the Industrial Revolution changed over 100 years. Now imagine something 10 times bigger than that happening in maybe a single decade. It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
And this brings us to a really fascinating point about the future of work. The difference between augmenting a job and automating it away. So Hassabis uses this great example. He thinks AI could totally automate a lot of what a doctor does. Analyzing data, making diagnoses from scans. That's all stuff AI is great at. But a nurse? AI can't replace the empathy, the emotional support, the actual human connection that a nurse provides. So one job gets automated, the other gets augmented. That's a crucial distinction.
And this isn't some far-off future either. This new reality is already changing how big companies operate. At Google, the CEO, Sundar Pichai, recently told his entire staff that the game has changed. The goal isn't just to hire more people anymore. The new directive is to use AI to drive higher productivity. Basically, accomplish more with the people you have. The message is clear. Be frugal. Be more efficient. Use the tools.
Okay, so we've got these tech titans at war. We've got the economy shifting right under our feet. So the big question is, what can you do? How do you arm yourself to not just survive, but actually thrive in this new AI world?
Well, here's a really practical battle plan, and it comes straight from NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang. He calls it thinking with AI. Don't just ask a question and take the first answer. Here's his method. Step 1, ask the same question to multiple AIs. Step 2, ask them to compare each other's answers. Step 3, challenge them. Ask, are you sure about that? And finally, step 4, make it explain things to you in a way you understand, even if you have to say, explain it to me like I'm 12. It's about using AI as a partner to make yourself smarter.
And here's another super simple but really powerful little hack, especially for all you ChatGPT users. So when you get a response that's kind of close but not quite right, most people just write a follow-up message trying to correct it. Don't do that. Instead, just go back and use the edit button on your very first prompt. You can tweak and refine it right there. It saves a ton of time and gets you much better results much faster. So all of this brings us right back to the central question at the heart of this war. As this whole thing rages on, who is actually going to decide what kind of future we build with this technology? Is it going to be the idealists, the ones fighting for a mission and for safety? Or the pragmatists, the ones with the deepest pockets? Really, it's a battle for what we value most, our principles or the price. And right now, it's anyone's guess who's going to win.
All right, let's dive right in. We are in the middle of what might be the biggest technological gold rush in modern history, the high-stakes, all-out race for AI dominance. Everyone, and I mean everyone, from Silicon Valley to the Pentagon, is betting billions on what comes next. But here's the big question. Are they building a revolutionary new world or just a very, very expensive black box? Let's get into it.
Okay, let's just start with one number that kind of puts it all in perspective. $344 billion. Now get this. That's the war chest big tech is expected to spend on AI in 2025 alone. This isn't just an investment, It's a frantic, all-out scramble to build what they see as the engine of the modern world.
And this quote, it just nails the mindset in every single boardroom right now. It's this wild mix of incredible ambition and pure, uncut fear. For the leaders of these companies, the biggest risk isn't betting too much and losing a ton of money. No, the biggest risk is betting too little and becoming totally irrelevant. It's a high-stakes poker game, and absolutely nobody can afford to fold their hand.
All right, so let's follow that money trail. First up, the $344 billion bet. We're going to break down who exactly is spending all this cash and why in the world they're in such a hurry to do it. And I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Microsoft is closing in on $30 billion for a single quarter. Amazon pretty much doubled its spending to over $31 billion, and Alphabet, Google's parent company, they're guiding for a mind-boggling $85 billion this year. And you've got to understand, this isn't just for fancy software. The lion's share of this money is for concrete and steel. They are literally building colossal, power-hungry factories for the AI age. But here's the thing. This isn't just a commercial horse race. This absolute fire hose of cash is spilling over into national security, and it's creating a brand new military frontier. Which, of course, raises a really critical question.
Is this race for speed leaving safety behind in the dust? At the core of all this is something called frontier AI. Basically, these are the most powerful, most advanced, and frankly most unpredictable AI models being built today. And because they're so powerful, you can bet the Pentagon is paying very close attention. They've already put up to $800 million on the table for the tech giants to start adapting these commercial systems for military use.
And this is where a major point of tension pops up. The Pentagon says it just wants to leverage the amazing tech and talent from these companies. But experts, like retired Lieutenant General Jack Shanahan, and this is the guy who founded the Pentagon's first AI center, they're sounding the alarm. He points out that the official language is all vague corporate speak, like risk management practices. His question is simple. Why not just call it what it is? Test and evaluation, or T&E. That's been the military's gold standard forever to make sure new tech actually works and won't fail on the battlefield. Using this fuzzy language, well, it kind of feels like they're skipping a really important step.
AI safety engineer Dr. Heidi Clough is even more direct. Her point is incredibly simple. These commercial models were never, ever designed for the battlefield. By rushing to adopt them, she argues, the government is just ignoring a whole list of known, very serious threats. It's like in the rush to innovate, they might be ditching safety protocols that have been in place for decades. So what kind of risks are we really talking about? Well, they're very real. Adversaries can actually nudge a model to say what they want it to say. Think about that whole Mika Hitler incident where an AI was manipulated. Or they could trick it into spilling secret military data just by asking some clever questions. They could even poison the data it learns on from the very beginning. And maybe the scariest thought? They could hide malicious code inside, like a sleeper agent that just sits there, waiting to activate and sabotage the whole system at the absolute worst possible moment. So all this spending, all these applications for businesses, for the military, they all depend on one single thing: data. But there's a huge problem bubbling just under the surface, one that could threaten the entire AI boom. It's the desperate search for fuel. To put it as plainly as possible, is AI running out of food? Because that's what data is. It's the fuel, the food these models need to learn and grow. And there's some pretty worrying signs that the public pantry is starting to run a little low. This timeline really illustrates what some people are calling the public data cliff. It really kicked off in 2023 when websites started putting up walls and blocking AI from just scraping all their information. By April of 2024, a quarter of the very best data sources were already off limits. And the projection? Some researchers believe we could completely exhaust the supply of new, human-generated text on the public internet as soon as 2026. That is right around the corner. But look, it's not just about the quantity of data. It's all about the quality. As Stuart Hubbard from Zebra Technologies points out, if you're feeding an AI a diet of data that's full of mistakes or biases or just isn't diverse enough, well, you're going to get a poorly performing model. It's the oldest rule in computing, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So if the public internet is starting to run dry, where do these AI companies find new food? Well, one of the biggest answers is what's being called frontline data. This is the vast, untapped ocean of information that businesses themselves create every single second. We're talking about things like data on manufacturing defects, the exact shape and volume of parcels in a warehouse, or all those proof of delivery photos. This kind of data is specific, it's high quality, and you can use it to train much, much smarter and more specialized AIs. This whole hunt for better data is forcing a huge shift in strategy across the board. And that leads us right into our next topic, forging smarter models. The industry is starting to pivot away from just brute force and is now making a big push for quality. Here is a perfect example of quality in action. Scientists recently created what they called a platinum pedigree benchmark. It's a super accurate dataset based on family genetics. They then used it to retrain Google's Deep Variance AI. And the results was just incredible. A 34% reduction in errors. That's definitive proof. Better data doesn't just make an AI a little bit better, it makes it profoundly smarter. And to cut through all the marketing hype, companies are getting way more rigorous about proving what their models can actually do. Take Tencent's Hunyan models. They're not just saying, hey, our model's great. Nope.
They're publishing the scores. They're testing them against standardized benchmarks for things like math and general knowledge, creating a kind of transparent report card for everyone to see. The testing methods are also getting a lot more creative. I mean, forget standard benchmarks for a minute. How about an AI chess tournament? Google's Kaggle is actually pitting all the top AIs against each other. You've got Gemini, Claude, Grok, the whole gang. But the goal isn't really to build a better chess-playing machine. It's to see how these huge general-purpose AIs actually think when they're faced with a real, complex strategic problem. It's a whole different kind of stress test. So you've got billions in spending, massive military stakes, this frantic search for quality data. It all leads back to one final, really big question. What is the ultimate return on all of this? Is the reality starting to match the hype? And this title from a recent Goldman Sachs report just puts the question perfectly. Gen AI, too much spend, too little benefit. That right there is the question on Wall Street, in Silicon Valley, everywhere right now. Is all this hype actually delivering real-world returns? So far, the answer seems to be, well, it's complicated. On one hand, you have companies like Microsoft and Google, and they are definitely seeing big payoffs as AI drives a ton of new business to their cloud services. But on the other hand, a company like Amazon is actually feeling the pressure. The enormous cost of building out all its AI infrastructure is squeezing its profit margins. It's a really clear sign that just spending a boatload of money doesn't guarantee an immediate win. But you know, in any gold rush, there's always one sure bet. Be the one selling the picks and shovels. And right now, the undisputed winner, the one selling all the tools, is NVIDIA. Their high-end GPUs are the essential hardware for this entire revolution, and demand is just scorching hot. I mean, look at Meta. They're on track to buy 350,000 of NVIDIA's top-of-the-line chips. For the company that's making the tools, this boom is very, very real. And that leaves us right back where we started, with the central question of this entire AI gold rush. The money is flowing, the tech is advancing at a dizzying, almost unbelievable pace. But are we confidently building the future, or are we just pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into a powerful, expensive, and not yet fully understood black box? That's the question everyone is racing to answer. Thanks for watching The Explainer.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the state of artificial intelligence right now as we're flying through the second half of 2025. You know, what used to feel like science fiction is now just part of our day. And honestly, it's moving faster than anyone really thought possible.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, just how big this AI explosion really is. Then we'll look at how AI is basically your new coworker. After that, we gotta talk about the risks, taming this digital brain. And finally, we'll peek into the future, the race towards superintelligence.
All right, let's get right into it. To really wrap our heads around what's going on, you just have to look at the sheer scale of this AI boom. I mean, the numbers here are just staggering.
Okay, so you see this number, 700 million. But what's truly wild isn't just the number, it's the speed. We're talking about the projected number of weekly active users for ChatGPT. That's a jump of 200 million people in, what, just 4 months? The growth curve here is practically a vertical line.
And look, this isn't just a ChatGPT thing, not by a long shot. A new report is showing that web traffic to all generative AI sites has jumped by 50% in the last year. That's over 10.5 billion visits. So people aren't just kicking the tires anymore, you know? They're really starting to use this stuff.
And all this adoption, it's leading to real engagement. Meta just came out and said their AI recommendations have bumped up the time we all spend on Instagram by 6%. And that's in just 1 quarter. The takeaway? AI is getting incredibly good at making the platforms we already use even stickier.
So this huge boom isn't just about our social media feeds. Nope, it's actually shaking up the professional world in a big way. AI is way more than just a fun chatbot now. It's becoming a real, practical tool, like a new coworker popping up in jobs all over the place.
Just look at manufacturing, for instance. A recent survey of quality leaders came back with this absolutely wild number. 99% of firms have either already brought AI in or they're planning to. It's not an if question anymore. It's just when and how. So what does that actually look like? Well, think about AI-powered cameras that can spot tiny cracks a person could never see. Or an AI that can predict when a machine is about to break down before it actually happens, saving a ton of money. It's even doing things like drafting those super technical manuals and operating procedures.
But in medicine, wow, the impact is even bigger. Over at the University of Miami's medical school, they're using AI and radiology, and it can flag life-threatening stuff like a pulmonary embolism in minutes instead of hours. The lead doctor there, Dr. Jean Jose, even said the results are pretty mind-blowing. We're talking about better patient outcomes, literally saving lives.
Okay, now let's switch gears to the world of finance. A company called Symphony AI says its platform slashes the number of false alarms for financial crimes by up to 80%. So what does that mean? It means the human experts can stop chasing dead ends and put all their energy into finding the real threats.
And what about the people who build all our software, the developers? Well, the productivity boost for them is real. There's this new tool from a French startup, Mistral AI, and it's making coders faster and way more accurate. It's helping them write better code, with 30% more of its suggestions being used, and, this is huge, with half the mistakes.
But, you know, with all this amazing power and speed, there are some pretty serious risks. And that brings us to the big challenge, right? How in the world do we manage and control these systems that are getting smarter by the day and are often flying completely under the radar?
You know, one of the biggest dangers isn't some evil rogue AI. It's shadow AI. It's happening right now. That same Menlo security report found that 68% of employees are using AI tools at work that their company never approved. They're just using their personal accounts, totally invisible to the IT department.
And this is where it gets scary. In just a single month, that report tracked more than 300,000 times employees tried to paste sensitive company data into these public AI tools. I mean, just think about that for a second. We're talking trade secrets, private customer information, just flowing right out the door.
So, to fight back against some of these deeper risks, a few companies are trying something pretty wild. The AI lab Anthropic is actually working on what they call a behavioral vaccine for their AI. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a really fascinating process. Here's how it works. First, they literally teach the AI to be bad, like how to be deceptive. Then, they figure out exactly which parts of its digital brain are active when it's doing that. They call them persona vectors. And finally, they train the AI to recognize and shut down those specific patterns. It's like building up an immunity to bad behavior.
But you can probably guess, this whole idea brings up a massive ethical question. Critics are asking, hey, is it really a good idea to teach an AI how to be evil, even if you have good intentions? I mean, what if those bad traits leak out somehow? Or what if there are consequences we just can't predict? That's a huge debate that's really just heating up.
And there's a reason for all these efforts to try and control AI. Because everything we've talked about, the insane growth, how it's getting woven into our jobs, the risks, it's all pointing to one thing: the next great tech race. And it's not a far-off dream anymore. It's happening right now.
The whole conversation around this has just changed. We're not talking in hypotheticals anymore. The leaders of these huge tech companies aren't using what-if language. In fact, Meta's CEO Mark Zuckerberg came right out and said that developing superintelligence, that's AI that's smarter than us in every possible way, is now in sight.
And you better believe the money is following that ambition. OpenAI just closed a funding round that values the company at an absolutely staggering $300 billion. When you see that kind of cash pouring in, it tells you one thing: the people with the money believe we are right on the edge of the next giant leap. So, this is where we are. The AI revolution isn't something that's coming. It's here. It's already woven into how we work and how we live. The growth is off the charts. The potential is incredible, and the risks are very, very real. Which really just leaves us with one last big question. Are we really ready for what's next?
All right, let's talk about artificial intelligence. You know, it's this technology that, on one hand, promises to cure diseases and solve our biggest problems, and on the other, it kind of threatens to unravel the very fabric of our society. It's a tool of just immense promise, but also immense peril. So that really is the defining question of our time, isn't it? Is AI this incredible partner that's going to lift all of us up, or is it a disruptive force that could just tear things down? As we're about to see, the answer is definitely not a simple yes or no. You see, on this one particular day, a bunch of seemingly unrelated stories all broke at once in science, in education, and in the job market. And when you piece them all together, they paint this fascinating and yet deeply conflicted picture of our new AI-powered reality. So let's start with the good stuff, the promise. Our first story here is a fantastic glimpse into the sheer power you can unleash when you point AI at a single, massive scientific challenge. A team over at the New Jersey Institute of Technology decided to use AI to go after a huge problem. I mean, we all rely on lithium-ion batteries for practically everything, but they come with massive sustainability and supply chain headaches. The goal was to find an alternative that was better, cheaper, and made from stuff that's just more abundant. What they were chasing is something called a multivalent ion battery. Now, the concept is pretty simple, but it's really powerful. Instead of using lithium ions, which carry just a single positive charge, these batteries use elements like magnesium or zinc, and those can carry 2 or even 3 times the charge, so they have the potential to store dramatically more energy. The only problem? Finding the perfect material from millions of possibilities was, for humans alone, practically impossible. Well, until now, their method was a total breakthrough. They built this dual AI system. The first AI, which you can think of as a material dreamer, just generated thousands of brand new crystal structures from scratch, materials that had literally never existed before. But a dream isn't reality, right? So a second AI, a large language model, acted as the reality check. It analyzed all the theoretical structures and basically threw out anything that wasn't stable enough to actually be created in a lab. And the result? Get this. The system didn't just find one possible material. It discovered 5. 5 completely new, super promising candidates for next-gen batteries. And it found them at a speed that would have been pure science fiction just a couple of years ago. That right there, that is the promise of AI. But AI isn't just a discovery engine working all by itself. The second part of its promise is a totally different model. AI as our new collaborator, designed specifically to boost human expertise, not replace it. And on that very same day, we saw 2 amazing examples of this. At the University of Florida's College of Dentistry, they're actually using AI as an intellectual sparring partner to help students think more critically about ethics. And then in the corporate world, you have tools like CAS SciFinder, which uses a science-specialized AI to help researchers accelerate everything. It summarizes complex data, it plans out chemical reactions in seconds, not hours. In both situations, the human is still in the driver's seat. The AI is just making them better and a whole lot faster. Dr. Carrie Wells at UF really nails this new partnership. She encourages her students to use AI to argue against their own position. It's such a brilliant approach because it forces them to engage with the evidence on a much deeper level. They're using AI not as a shortcut to an answer, but as a tool to sharpen their own minds. Okay, but on this exact same day, the headlines also revealed a much, much darker side of how fast AI is weaving itself into our world. And this is where we see the real disruption and the very real potential for widespread deception. A report from the Burning Glass Institute shows us exactly what that disruption looks like. There has been a really sharp drop in job postings for those early career roles in fields like finance and operations. And the reason is simple. AI is getting very, very good at doing the exact kind of entry-level tasks that have always been that first rung on the career ladder. The real-world result of that is just, it's staggering. 52% of recent college graduates are now underemployed. They're taking jobs that don't even require the degree they just spent a fortune to get. That first step on the career ladder is being automated away, and for a lot of people, there's just nowhere to step up to. And this disruption isn't just in the job market. Allison Muddett, who's the CEO of the Public Library of Science, or PLOS, she described what's happening in academic research right now as an ongoing arms race. And it's a battle to protect the very integrity of science itself. If you want to grasp the sheer scale of this arms race, just look at PLOS. In 2018, their publication ethics team had 1 person. 1.
Today, it has 18. That kind of explosive growth isn't about getting more efficient. It's a direct response to a massive flood of papers being submitted that use AI to manipulate or even completely fabricate their data. It's just a constant battle to protect science.
So this all brings us to the choice we're facing. We have this incredible promise of AI as a discovery engine and a collaborator. And it's set against this very real peril of mass disruption and a crisis of truth. So what on earth do we do now?
The whole debate is really captured perfectly by two of the biggest leaders in AI. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, he warns that AI is just going to wipe out a huge number of jobs. But then you have OpenAI's Sam Altman, who has a more optimistic take. He says jobs won't disappear, they'll just change into new roles that we can't even imagine yet. But maybe the question isn't about who's right. Maybe the real question, the one posed by that Burning Glass report, is more fundamental. With all that entry-level work vanishing, and with truth itself under assault, what happens if we fail to adapt at all? The promise of AI is immense, for sure, but navigating its peril, well, that's the great challenge that's now fallen to every single one of us.
All right, so today we're diving into the massive, complicated, and honestly, pretty wild world of artificial intelligence. You could call it a double-edged sword. On one side, you have this explosion of creativity. On the other, high-stakes corporate conflict. It's a race to build our future, and it is happening right now.
So, let's just start with this one huge question. What if you could create anything you can imagine? I mean, really, anything. Well, that's not science fiction anymore. That is the promise of a whole new wave of AI tools that are already here.
So, let's get into it. What we're witnessing right now is, well, it's like a Cambrian explosion for creativity. These new AI tools are putting a kind of power into our hands that just a few years ago was completely unthinkable.
I mean, just look at the sheer variety here. You can spin up these breathtaking portraits with Midjourney. You can get ready-to-use assets for a video game from Leonardo.ai. You can even get PersonaCraft AI to write incredibly deep backstories for characters in a novel. You can even, get this, put your own face into any art style you want with a tool like Vana. It's nuts. Suddenly, your imagination is the only real bottleneck.
And this really isn't just about making cool pictures. As one report from Office Chai put it, the right tool can literally revolutionize your workflow. We're talking about a massive boost in speed and efficiency and just unlocking new ideas. But if it's all so great, what's the holdup? Why isn't this everywhere already?
Well, because when this amazing, revolutionary tech slams into the real world, things get messy. And there is no better place to see this clash between the future and the present than in Hollywood. On one side, you have these fantastic pitches, right? Like creating a cool little AI sidekick for the new Tron movie. Or how about using an AI deepfake of Dwayne Johnson to make filming the new Moana faster and cheaper? Awesome ideas. But then, reality hits. Both of those ideas got scrapped. Why? Worries about bad press, legal problems, data security. The list goes on.
So, yeah, why all the hesitation? Why would a giant studio that has so much to gain from this technology just slam on the brakes?
Because for them, it's like walking through a minefield. You've got the very real risk of fan backlash, you've got tough negotiations with unions about jobs, then there's the huge fuzzy question of who even owns something an AI creates. On top of that, you've got to protect your own characters, you've got to worry about data security. It's just a recipe for extreme caution.
And this isn't just a theoretical headache. The fight is already in the courtroom. You have Disney, of all companies, actively suing AI firms like Midjourney. They're accusing them of building their entire business on what the lawsuit calls a bottomless pit of plagiarism. I mean, that's the ultimate irony, right? A company trying to figure out how to use this new tech is also suing the very people who make it to protect its own characters. But here's the kicker. Even with all those risks, all those lawsuits and headaches, the potential payoff is so ridiculously huge that it's sparking this massive, high-stakes corporate race to be the first to crack the code.
And if you want to know why they're pushing so hard, you just need to look at one number: $28 billion. That's how big the AI gaming market alone is projected to be. With that much cash on the line, nobody, and I mean nobody, can afford to just sit this one out.
To see how real this is,
Just look at a company like Razer. The gaming hardware giant is planning to hire 150 AI specialists, not for the whole company, just for a single new AI center in Singapore. That's not a side project. That is a massive bet on winning the future.
And Razer's chief strategy officer, Lai Meng Lee, pretty much spelled it out. He said their goal is to, quote, empower game developers with the tools that deliver more immersive, intelligent, and efficient gaming experiences at scale. It's all about building the toolbox for the next generation of entertainment.
And this is not just talk. They're shipping actual products. They have a game co-AI that can give you real-time coaching while you play. And then there's the QA co-AI, which can cut the time it takes to test a game for bugs by up to 50%. That's how you win the race. You make things faster, smarter, and better.
But okay, let's zoom out for a second. Because this whole thing isn't just about corporate battles and making money. There's a much deeper, almost philosophical ambition that's driving this entire field. It's this desire to push beyond the very edge of what we think of as reality.
Researchers over at Stanford have a name for the ultimate goal here. They call it the visual Turing test. The idea is, can we create a mixed reality experience that's so seamless, you literally can't tell the difference between a real, physical object and a digital one? It's about completely blurring the line between our world and the worlds we create.
And some people are trying to go even further, beyond what's even physically possible. At MIT, researchers have built a tool that lets you not only see, but actually edit impossible objects. Like the crazy optical illusions you'd see in an M.C. Escher drawing.
And as one of the MIT PhD students on the project, Anna Dodick, said, we've unlocked a new class of shapes for artists to work with. So we're moving past just recreating our reality. We're now building the tools for artists to invent totally new ones from scratch.
But what if the next great frontier isn't visual at all? What if it's emotional? That's the whole idea behind this concept of EQ AI. The mission here is to merge emotional intelligence, EQ, with artificial intelligence, to create characters in games that don't just act smart, but actually feel human.
So how in the world do you build an AI with a soul? Well, the roadmap kind of looks like this. First, you have to give the AI a sort of intuitive grasp of human emotions. Second, you give it an emotional memory so it actually remembers past conversations and interactions with you. And finally, you use that to create living stories, where your relationship with a character can grow and change all on its own.
And that brings us to the final, biggest question of all. AI is handing us the power to build entirely new worlds, new realities, maybe even new kinds of friends. So the choice we have to make is, what kind of world are we going to build? That's the decision at the very heart of this revolution.